captain speaking. I've got good news and bad news. The good news is we'll be landing immediately. The bad news is we're crash landing. When it comes to air travel, we know you have no choice whatsoever. But thanks again for choosing Air Penguin.
Raise your arms, Maurice. It's more fun when you raise your arms like this. I can fly. This could be it, Marty. I just want you to know you were truly a one in a million friend.
Thanks, buddy. You're the best ever.
I know you won't mind when I tell you.
Come on, tell me anything. Tell me what.
I broke your iPod.
What?
The buttons were so small. It made me mad.
The horror.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna kill you.
It was an accident. It was an accident. I'm sorry. Did you do it?
I love you, Gloria. I always have. Like you love the beach, or a good book, or the beach.
My goodness, doll, you're shaking like a leaf. Rico, you've had your fun. Pull up. Gear down. Gently now, you just want to kiss the ground. Just a little peck, a smooch like you're kissing your sister. I said kiss it. Now just a little break, just a touch, a little whisper.
I believe that's checkmate.
Commence emergency landing procedure. Flaps up. Deploy.
Oh, we're here. What in the world? What happened to the plane?
Okay.
What did y'all do to the plane?
Crash. Okay. I'm alive.
See, I can't even sleep for a minute. And you know
Wow.
what? This is not JFK.
There's a moment you need it the most. They kick up the leaves and the magic is lost. They tell me your blue skies fade to gray. They tell me your passion's gone away. And I don't need no carrying on. You're standing alive just to hear a new love. You're faking a smile with the coffee to go. You tell me your life's been way offline. You follow the pieces every time. And I don't need no carrying on. 'Cause you had a bad day. You talked to one down. You sing a sad song just to turn it around. You say you don't know. You tell me don't lie. You work up a smile and you don't fool around. You had a bad day. The camera don't lie. You're coming back down. You really don't mind. You had a bad day. You had a bad day. bad day, but there don't lie. You're coming back down when you really don't mind. You had a bad day. So where's the passion you needed the most? You and I, you kick up the leaves and the magic is lost. Cause you had a bad day, you take it one down. You sing a sad song just to turn it around. You say you don't know, you tell me don't lie. You wake up a smile and you go for a ride. You had a bad day, take it a lie. You had a bad day. You had a bad day. You had a bad day. You had a bad day.
Well, good morning and welcome to Entry Point. We are delighted to see you all here on a slightly rainy day. I was afraid everyone was going to stay home, and you didn't. So good. I'm glad you came because we would have been lonely without you. Yes, you're great. Here in this faith community, of course, we provide the opportunity or the entry point for you to discover what it is that you believe and then live your life in accordance with those beliefs. We gather together live here at O'Connor Prairie every other week. And on the Sundays that we are not here, we offer a virtual service. And in order to watch that service, I need to have your email address. So if you have not filled out a blue card that is in the blue basket on the table, then you can't watch the virtual services. So please do that so that I can give you an opportunity to watch that virtual service. Also, the blue basket is there for your contribution to this faith community. Today, also we have water available, so in the white cooler over there, because it's kind of hot and I don't know, kind of muggy, you might want to pour that all over your body today. Today we are talking about the unfairness of life. And I'll tell you that I learned everything I know about fairness from the goddess of pop and her body double. You know, share and share alike. Okay, let's try this one. I know life just isn't fair sometimes, but I mean, it isn't fair to get mad at lazy people. They didn't do anything. And finally, a father says to his son, well, the world just isn't fair, Calvin. I know, Dad, but why isn't it ever unfair in my favor? We are pleased to welcome back to our fold one of our singers, Susie Montgomery. Very soon. I think that's enough for me.
I'm trying to tell you something about my life. Maybe give me some insight between black and white. And the best thing you've ever done for me is to help me take my life less seriously. It's only life after all. The darkness has a hunger that's insatiable, and lightness has a call that's hard to hear. And I wrap my fear around me like a blanket. Not so much ship of safety till I sank it. I'm crawling on your shore. I went to the doctor. I went to the mountains. I looked to the children. I drank from the fountains. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a broken line. And unless I seek my source for some definitive 4 years prostrate to the higher mind. So I paid for it, I was free. And I went to the doctor, I went to the mountains, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountains. There's more than one answer to these questions, more than need a crooked line. And the less I seek my souls for some definitive, closer I am to mine. Closer I am to mine. I stopped by the bar at 3 a.m. to seek solace in the bottle, or possibly a friend. And I woke up with a headache like my head upon a board. Body as I'd been the night before, and I went in seeking clarity. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountains, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountains. We go to the doctor, we go to the mountains, we look to the children, we drink from the fountains. Yeah, we go to the Bible, we go to the workout, we read up on the Bible, we set out for the lookout. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me to crooked line. And the less I seek my source from some definitives, closer I am to mine, yeah. Closer I am to mine, yeah. Closer I am to mine.
Please pray with me. God, help. Help us let go, and I mean really let go of our rigidity of how we think our lives should be. Remove our blinders and teach us to expect and accept what many of us see as completely unexpected. We may see others who cope with disappointment and losses with compassion and support, but when these things happen to us, we find ourselves bitter, stuck, angry, and struggling to accept the realities that we're facing. Show us how to be flexible. I personally struggle with flexibility and also being right, just ask my wife Leslie. Teach us to embrace all the truths in our lives so that we may move through them with peace, with grace, and with acceptance. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one moment at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, and accepting hardships as a pathway to peace. Amen.
2 a.m. she calls me 'cause I'm still awake. Can you help me unravel my latest mistake? I'm loving winter, just wasn't my season. Yeah, we walk through the door so accusing, their eyes like they have any pride in all too crazy.
Sherry was a freshman in college, she received a phone call from a family member telling her that her mother was in the hospital. Now this was a surprise to her because her mother was young and very healthy. She was told that she needed to come home. So by the time Sherry traveled the 2 hours from her college to the hospital where her mother had already fallen unconscious, and then a few moments after she arrived, her mother passed away. She had suffered a severe brain aneurysm. So while Sherry was just 19 years old, she was facing the biggest life-challenging moment in her experience. She struggled, like we all would, to make sense of this and to try to get through each day. And then 6 months later, she received another call. It was about her grandmother. She too had suffered a fatal brain aneurysm. And just like that, without warning, the two most important people in her life were gone. Sherry struggled with getting past the unfairness of it all. As the days, weeks, and months passed, she became preoccupied with the unfairness of life. Every single thing seemed and felt unfair to her. Sherry said it seemed like everything, even marginally negative, that happened after their deaths was interpreted by me as unfair. Every single person sitting here today can relate to that story. We have each had an experience, at least one really painful experience, as a result of the unfairness of life. Every single one of us in this place has said the words, well, that's not fair, at least one time. And I also know this about every single one of us here today. There are 4 other things that we struggle against. They kind of all fit under this umbrella of life is not always fair, and along with life is not always fair, they comprise the subject matter of the book that I am currently reading by David Rico, The 5 Things We Cannot Change, which of course prompted me to develop today's service. Here are the 5 things that we cannot change. Everything changes and ends. Things do not always go according to plan. Life is not always fair. Pain is part of life. And people are not loving and loyal all the time. Take a moment and look at that list. Find your favorite. Find your favorite experience. Find your favorite complaint. This is a list of what David Rico calls unavoidable givens. No matter how hard we try, we cannot change these unavoidable givens in life. Yet we have spent considerable time trying to do so. We have pushed against these truths all of our lives. Why is this happening to me? Wait, what? Seriously? Why did she do that? This isn't fair. Why is my body betraying me? Why are you leaving me? These are words that comprise our life. We have all felt those feelings and said those words. So let's consider some of the suggestions that Mr. Rico offers in this book on how to handle these terrible absolute givens in our life. So Rico advises us with these words. We cannot find real contentment in our lives until we acknowledge and come to terms with these facts without trying to control them. Oh, controlling them. That's the issue. I got that under control. Rico encourages us to cultivate an unconditional yes to these conditions of existence. And then he says our relationships will become easier because they will be based on what is rather than what we expect. You know, those expectations, they always kill us. They always disappoint. Most of all, when we stop struggling and trying to reason and wrestle with these givens, we will learn how to open up to our own truth, and then we can discover opportunities for our practice of mindfulness and loving kindness. Let's say, for example, that we decide to accept, number 5, that people are not always going to behave well. They're disloyal, they're not always loving. If we really accept that, then when someone has disappointed us, like they do, stabbed us in the back, gossiped about us, misbehaved in a way we don't like, we shouldn't be surprised. Accepting these givens as reality helps us to stop wasting time trying to analyze somebody's bad behavior. This individual behaved badly because that's what happens sometimes. This isn't about me. This is a random moment in life where this individual chose to behave that way badly, and it doesn't have to ruin my day, and it doesn't have to ruin my life. Accepting that things do not always go according to plan allows us to understand, the pandemic. Instead of being outraged that our lives were so interrupted, maybe someday we can say, geez, it's a miracle that only happened once in my lifetime. Think about that. Now you might be thinking to yourself, oh Nancy, that was a terrible way to go through life, expecting bad things to happen. That's not what this book or I am suggesting. Rico envisions a positive future for us when we are able to accept these givens of life, as evidenced by the subtitle of the book, The 5 Things We Cannot Change and the Happiness We Find by Embracing Them. Now let's be reasonable here. No one expects us to be so serene and happy that when any of these givens happen, we just smile and nod and calmly say, well, that's what happens, I'm fine. That's not how we respond. We have reactions to these situations, and each of these givens bring us pain. They interrupt the flow of our life. They interrupt our plans, the way we envisioned our life unfolding. So here's what I suggest when one of these 5 truths happen to us. We need to give ourselves time to react to the shock, the unexpected change, the surprise tilt in our world. If we can, this is best if this is a private reaction. I think it's even kind of good if we shield our family members and we do this completely alone. This is the time for us to scream and yell and walk and punch the air and swear and ask why 1,000 times. This is the time to say, what in the world just happened? We don't need anyone around to watch that part. This is best as a solo performance. It's best if we resist the loading of our gun and the jumping in the car. I encourage us to take time to refrain from calling or texting or sending an email to somebody. Those are the moments that our knee-jerk reaction could bury us and kill relationships and ruin things. This is not when we are at our best self. Give yourself and anyone around you a break before you respond. And then, when we can breathe, when our breathing has regulated itself and we're better able to think more clearly, then we can process how best to proceed. Now, our anger may have softened into sadness. We may have a lot of pent-up anger that we don't quite know what to do with. We may feel incredibly out of place in the world. And the unfairness is dripping around us in the air. Remember Sherry, the woman I started talking about in the beginning of this message, as Sherry was going through some of her grandmother's things, she found a small card with the Serenity Prayer on it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That message struck her, and it stayed with her. And instead of immediately going to, that's unfair, about whether or not she could control anything, she realized that she was responding very negatively, and she realized that she didn't have much control over very many things. She began to discover that this card was helping her to change her life. It was the beginning of healing. It was the beginning of the point at which she changed her mental direction from negative to focusing on what she could actually control. As we process how we can respond and move forward, let's give the Serenity Prayer a try. There's copies of it on the table. Take it with you. That's what it's there for. Accepting things that we cannot change is incredibly difficult, yet we all seek it. Having the courage to change the few things we can is incredibly difficult. Having the wisdom to know the difference between those two seems to take a lifetime for us to master. And that's why we ask God to help us with those three tasks. In all honesty, we need to flip our thinking. If we begin to accept these 5 givens, we realize we don't really have any control over anything that happens in this random life. We aren't lucky or unlucky. We aren't going to escape a few really bad things happening to us any more than we are going to miss out on some really good things happening to us. Instead of saying, I had a horrible day, we might just say, well, it was a day. And then on a day in when absolutely nothing major happened, we might recognize that for the miracle that it is. If it's a day when nobody had to go to the hospital, nobody got hurt, everyone is in the house, everyone got food, and it didn't rain until after the grass was mowed, that's a freaking miracle. That is a great day. A Native American grandfather was speaking to his grandson about violence and cruelty in the world and how it comes about. He said it was as if 2 wolves were fighting in his heart. One wolf was vengeful and angry, and the other wolf was understanding and kind. The young man asked his grandfather, well, which wolf will win the fight in your heart? And the grandfather answered, the one that wins will be the one I choose to feed. We all have a choice of which wolf we are going to feed when we are faced with life's unfairness. This is the fork in the road moment for every one of us. But we let the aggressive wolf lead us down the path of spiraling suffering, feeding it with stories of blame and self-righteousness, or will we follow the other wolf of compassion and wise understanding of what can and cannot be changed? At the end of the day, friends, what we are seeking is inner peace. We are struggling against all 5 of these unchangeable givens, which can be boiled down to this statement. Life feels a lot of the time like it's unfair. The sooner we can say, yes, it does, and there's nothing I can do about it, the sooner we will stop spending so much of our emotional energy fighting something over which we have no control, and therefore the sooner we will be emotionally at peace. Amen.
Don't you worry about a thing, mama.
the late Jack Benny, had these words to say as he was receiving one of his many awards for his television and film accomplishments. "I don't deserve this award, but I have arthritis, and I don't deserve that either." Let's remember the power of that statement as we face both good news and bad news. We were never in control anyway. It was really good to see all of you here today. Next week in our virtual service, we will celebrate July 4th. And then we will be back here in 2 weeks when I will be talking about how to turn imperfect things into beautiful things. Have a great Sunday and go in peace. Amen.